News Talk 580 CFRA.
James, the entire radio station is yours.
Well, I have nowhere to
what
put it.
matters to you, James?
I have nowhere to put it, John. I would need a huge parking lot, but thank you for the help.
Take advantage of the minutes you have on the air right now.
I'll do my best. Look, this thing about the yoga, the canceling yoga, it's a giant. It's a small part of a giant thing. It's an attempt to. It's part of the process of getting us used to a new totalitarianism. I mean, if you like, I had to read a couple of articles really slowly before I could make sense of the reasoning that was behind the complaint. So we're talking about a woman that's been giving free yoga lessons largely to the disabled for a long time. I can only imagine that people with certain kinds of physical disabilities found these yoga classes to be really beneficial on a number of levels.
Sounds like a delightful woman that's been offering that.
It also sounds like she was careful out of respect for the culture from which yoga had come to also explain the roots of this tradition, which is, an act of humility. I mean, it's really, I just can't think of a better way this could have been done. But the complaint is interesting because it was purely a postmodern complaint. What I mean is that this complaint was spun together by a kind of crypto reasoning, which is a direct derivative of the culturally Marxist Frankfurt School way of approaching things. The purpose of it was deconstruction. It was to get people used to arbitrary rules that can change without notice. Right? I mean, it's the same. We're going to see blasphemy laws implemented in Quebec very soon with Bill 59. We're going to see...
Does that look like that's going to go through?
It's looking more like it every day. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I would have thought there'd be some brains in the media in Quebec, that would scream and yell about this.
There are.
There'd be some public outcry at how incredible. Like, this is insane what's going on in Quebec right now with that bill.
No, it comes from Resolution 1618 of the United Nations. This is a big thing which is being implemented in different forms everywhere. Even the United States is trying to find ways to implement blasphemy laws, even if it's just through shaming and humiliating its own citizens. I mean, it's a big thing. But this yoga woman, the nature of the complaint was essentially it's replacing the perception of racism with genuine racism in order to combat the perception of race. It's just like affirmative action. It's insane. What they did is said, because this woman wasn't brown and she's teaching from a religion in which members of her race, as they define it, had at one point colonized people of that race, it was therefore insensitive of her to teach an aspect of the culture which had been appropriated, or she was appropriating their culture, and therefore she had no right to teach something which was from a Hindu background, when the British, which I don't even think she was British, had colonized India, even though, frankly, India is one of the best places in Southeast Asia because that's a direct consequence of its colonization by the British. But the point is that's their reasoning. Their reasoning is racist. They're saying that because she is white and therefore somehow connectable to the British, and she was teaching a philosophy that had come from brown people that were Hindus, that a completely arbitrary connection between her and these other people. In other words, it's not about ideology, it's about race when it comes to deconstruction of our culture and the things we do. But it's about ideology and not race when it suits them. So we need to laugh this stuff off and resist. Like when people suddenly tell you what you mean by a thing, you need to laugh at them and tell them to get out. We cannot submit to these people that are inventing the most ludicrous imaginable reasonings to deconstruct our entire civilization. And this is a small part of it, but that's clearly what it was. There is no other explanation that's sensible. Why would they stop something that was ostensibly good, even from a kind of a new age point of view? This was a good, healthy thing she did, and respectful, and in all ways good. Why would they stop it? And if you look at the reasoning, it's so clear that it's part of this getting us all used to the idea of arbitrary and totalitarian rule at any time, for any reason, at any ludicrous. This is right out. If you read stuff dating back to the Soviet Union, this is Ottawa U, okay? Yeah.
Compare when they shut down the entire hockey program, when two guys weren't even found guilty yet. Just on the suspicion, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a university that has totalitarian rule. Man, Ottawa used the prototype, man.
And it's a very particular type of totalitarian. It's very much like the old Soviet Union. Yeah, like I have some friends that actually escaped from behind the Iron Curtain, and they feel that we lost the Cold War, and they point out this stuff every day as being exactly the kinds of things that the communists in the Soviet Union used to do in order to just arbitrarily rule and shut things down and make life hell. And things did not go better as a consequence. They did not have a better society.
I know. Yeah, of course not.
So I'm saying that, this is going to touch every one of us. This little story is just, if people think back about their own offices and things that have happened, being made to go through sensitivity training for something completely insane and irrelevant, or whatever have you, we have to say no to these things. Like, there's going to be a cost initially. If you say no and you refuse to, to submit to it.
People lose their jobs if they say no.
Yeah, no. You know what, though? I think there's got to come a point where there's a cost benefit to firing everybody who's any good. I mean, what's the government just going to subsidize everybody to do nothing? I mean, that's what the Soviet Union was, after all. But I think if people were to, we just have to do this. We have to say no to this. It's not going to go well if we keep allowing these increments, and it's happening way fast. That, if we keep allowing incrementally, well, we're not allowed to say this, even though it's clearly true. I mean, obviously anything to do with this land is really, really obvious. But, in general, we're seeing these rules being applied to every aspect of our lives, where if truth is not a defense, if you cannot say something which is true without a horrible consequence on you, then any semblance of democracy or individual rights is lost. Because at the bottom of all of it, you wanted to have a philosophical conversation, at the basis of any philosophy that leads us to any kind of good place, truth must be an absolute defense.
Yeah,
and it's no longer
people don't even have a grasp of truth anymore. It's been so watered down that, and John Robson, I mean, that's exactly what he's talking about. We don't even know what we are anymore, to the point where we don't even know why we defend what we defend. What are we defending if we don't know what we are? And that's postmodern. Yeah. That's the postmodern disease. Be non-judgmental, because you don't trust your own judgment. But even if you don't, there's a basis in reason. Like, I kind of consider that our culture is essentially Greek. If you look at Western civilization, it's pretty much a direct product of the thinking of Greeks that were. It was kind of an interesting mixture of a kind of Christianity and a harsh, direct logic that was invented by ancient Greek thinkers. And I think that's sort of where all that we have came from. And whether, no matter how we view ourselves, the process of reason that these people gave us, it works. It works anyway. Things are testable. If they're testable, you can develop models. You go from a theory, a hypothesis, to a theory. These things are independent. The reason is independent of the thing that we're looking at, right? You can apply reason no matter what you feel. And if we can't do that, if we put feelings above reality, above things that are testable, that we can know through scientific investigation or through applying basic reason of our own, if we're going to start talking about somebody's invented feelings, like whoever it was that imagined that this woman teaching yoga was a problem, I mean, I doubt you're going to find any religious Hindu that's going to feel that it was cultural appropriation. You're not going to find one. And where are they? They're not even bringing people in that are offended on this. I don't know if you're watching. I don't know if you're watching this season of South Park. I'm a huge fan of that show. I think that some of the best social commentary in English speaking history, even if it's at times crude and vulgar. The same thing was true of Shakespeare in his time. And if this particular season of South Park, they did something unique. Every episode is just a commentary on political correctness and the damage it does to our society. And every episode's better than the previous one. For anybody interested, try to go season 19, 1 through 8. Boy, we're in trouble when the most effective political commentary is coming from South Park. Well, as long as, maybe, I think we're not in trouble if enough millions of people see. I'm not disagreeing with you, James. I know the guys who created it, they're pretty smart guys. Oh, yes, and they're libertarian. Oh, I know. James, I got to go. Always great talking to you. Thanks for the call. Bye.